Today we are taking on Vivix, and he or she, unfortunately I'm not sure, but they are the senior administrator at Project Uranium, and in fact they challenged me for a battle, and I took up their challenge. And as you guys can see, I've made some changes here. Now I have Tangrowth and Toxapex because I figured that Tyranitar and Rotom Wash weren't really too effective on my team structure. So anyways, I decided to lead with Medicham. I see that he has, some pretty scary offensive Pokemon like his Superior, his Gengar, which actually resists the stabs I have on Medicham except for, Zen Headbutt. And anyways, I do go for the Fake Out because, it's a very safe move to get off a free Mega Evolution and also some additional chip damage. Now here, of course, I didn't want to have to switch or stay in on the Superior because it can really just do heavy damage. So he goes for the Light Screen. I guess he predicted me wanting to switch out. And I wanted to go for T-Wave to suppress it, but he goes for Taunt, which is also fine because I can still attack it and resist its attacks. So he goes for Leaf Storm, which does absolutely no damage at all. And I go for another Air Slash, which is still not enough to KO. Now my Taunt wears off. I have to figure out what I want to do here. I can still attack. I can, of course, status, predicting a switch, or I could switch out myself. But, I figured it would probably be best to just go for Air Slash since that's safe. And his Superior was at too low HP to really be scary because, of course, I would not want to switch in on anything. And then in addition, I could also Bullet Punch or Fake Out on it and shut it down in case I try to go for sweeps. So I was able to dispatch it. Luckily he went for Taunt, I guess predicting me to go for a status attack instead, or I don't know. But then he goes into Gliscor. So here I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and unfortunately I couldn't knock off the Gliscor. Like that was my plan, to have something like Scissor or Tangrowth stay in, so then I could go on knockoff, and then when he switched into Gliscor I'd remove its Toxic Orb. But unfortunately I was not able to execute that because he switched in Gliscor really early on in the game. Then he gets that Toxic Orb boost, and now that's that. It's gonna be a big problem. Anyways, I go into Tangrowth, and the good thing is Tangrowth normally runs HP Ice, Hidden Power Ice as coverage, so I think he might have known that, so he switched out into Electivire. And what I didn't expect was him to run Flamethrower, which did absolutely monstrous HP. So I go into knockoff to remove his item, which is great because now he can't do really hard damage because he doesn't have his Life Orb anymore, and that of course really gave him that extra boost. But the issue that I noticed is that my whole team is completely weak to this Pokemon. Not many Pokemon want to switch in on his T-Bolt, neither do they want to switch in on a Flamethrower. Fire and Electric is just such a good offensive pairing. Had to be really careful for it. So that was that. So I go into Togekiss anyways because I figured that it would take a T-Ball pretty well and it could take a Flamethrower, and evidently it did. And now I had to figure out what I wanted to do next because he could go for another T-Ball, but he might even predict me and go for something else. Now for some reason I was thinking about Sizer. I don't know why I would have done that because even on T-Bolt it would take massive damage, and on Flamethrower that's you don't even have to ask about that. You already know it's going down. So Chandelure of course can take in the fire attack because it has Flash Fire, and it would actually be really good, although I don't know when he's gonna go for T-Bolt. So anyways, I go into Toxapex because Toxapex can safely take any attack that he has since it has Regenerator. And then he goes for T-Bolt, which is it's okay, it's not great, but that's that. So now I have to figure out what I want to do next. He's probably gonna expect a switch. Why would I stay in and take another T-Ball? Because clearly I can't. Toxapex, although very bulky, is not really taking the hit too well. So I figured that Chandelure is the best place since he's probably gonna predict me predicting or making a switch. And that was great because I was able to get that Flash Fire boost. Now my Flamethrower is going to do crazy ludicrous damage. So now he has to switch out, and he goes to Gliscor, which completely gets shattered. Like that is crazy damage from the Flamethrower. And now I had the choice. I could stay in and dispatch the Gliscor, although I do get outsped in most cases. And at the same time, I'm not sure if I can even take an Earthquake quite well. Now, although I will say Chandelure is a relatively bulky Pokemon. I'm pretty sure it has 90 defenses, on the board, so it might be able to take an Earthquake, although it's not something I wanted to find out. So I decided to switch into Tangrowth, which was the safest play, and of course it completely ate up the Rock Slide and even his Earthquake. Honestly, if I was smart there, I probably could have stayed in, or if I knew that he was going to go for Rock Slide, because then I could have removed the Glass Core just like that. But, you know, I did not, you know, make that play, unfortunately. So, anyways, I do predict him switching out, and, you know, that is exactly what you want to do when you have Pokemon like Medicham and Chandelure, because once you get a high or hard-hitting Pokemon in, you know, it's not fun to switch in. And I predict him actually going into the Gengar, and I get the Zen Headbutt off, because, you know, if I go for Fake Out, that's obviously the safest play. But, you know, his Gengar would be immune, and then he would get the free switch in, and then I couldn't pressure it because, you know, he outsped me. So that was that. And if I went for High Jump Kick on the other hand, you know, that's not at all going to be good for Medicham, because I'm going to be taking huge damage. So I'm glad I made that prediction and was able to get the Gengar out of the game. So anyways, he goes into Togekiss, and this is a bit of a problem, because even if I did not get my Zen Headbutt disabled, I still wouldn't be able to do much damage to it, since you know, it's a very bulky Pokemon, so it could probably take the hit, then it could tread in back with status, or it could even Air Slash and still do pretty good damage. So anyways, I predict the status and I go into Toxapex, because you know, if anything's gonna take a T-Wave, Toxapex is probably the best Pokemon for that, especially because I need Glass Core to check the I need Tangrowth to check the Glass Core, so I figured that Toxapex would be the best Pokemon for that job. But anyways, I went for the Scald, predicting Glass Core. He stayed in, and then I went for the Toxic, thinking that he was going to commit to staying in. But then he goes to Glass Core, which was some good playing from him. So now, you know, I had to switch out, go into Tangrowth, because, you know, it is really safe. Although I was a bit afraid, because I wasn't sure how long I could keep doing this until he started really sniffing that out and then reacting accordingly. Because if he switched into something else on the prediction, you know, it's not going to be fun. But anyways, I do get Tangrowth in, and now I have to really think about what I'm going to do in this situation. So I go for a knockoff anyways on the Electivire, which was, you know, it did good damage, although honestly I probably would have been better off going for the Sleep Powder, just predicting the switch. Although at the same time though, I didn't really want to have to, you know, take that risk. And I was also thinking about his Togekiss as another potential Pokemon as a switch in, so I figured that, you know, knockoff would be safe, because if he stayed into Glass Core, it would still, you know, do damage. If he switched, it would, you know, really do damage to the Togekiss, and of course it would stop Electivire, whereas Sleep Powder would not be able to affect the Glass Core at all, although it would probably have a better effect on the Electivire and Togekiss. But anyways, I put Togekiss in on the T-Bolt, and, you know, of course I don't mind doing that too much, as long as he doesn't get a critical hit, because Togekiss has the ability Regenerator. Toxapex has the ability Regenerator, which allows for it to, you know, do that effectively. Anyways, I go into Medicham because I didn't really have anything else I wanted to take in a T-Bolt with, and then I make the stupid idea of not going for the Fake Out, because now he doesn't have a Fake Out immune Pokemon, so I could have actually gone for that, and I'd forgotten that I was running Adamant rather than Jolly on my Medicham, and that was, like, you know, a pretty bad move on my part, because there I lost my Medicham, which is my best answer to his Electivire. And then in addition, I go into Chandelure and have to take massive damage before I can actually kill it, which really, you know, suppressed it. And that was probably one of the worst plays I'd made in this game. If I had remembered that I was running Adamant rather than Jolly, then, you know, I could have probably executed that better. But, you know, that's that. I've learned my lesson. I've already suffered twice now. I suffered against Bounty, not running the Jolly nature, and now I suffered in this battle too. And there goes my Medicham and my Chandelure, my two good wall breakers, completely immobilized. Or not really immobilized, just, you know, the Chandelure, of course, is maimed, and the Medicham is no more in this battle. So anyways, I have to now play around this Glass Core, you know, that has switched in. But the good thing is he's on 3 Pokemon, but, you know, the Pokemon he has remaining are his scary Pokemon. He has his Scizor, which he hasn't even pulled out this whole battle, and the good thing is that my team, I can, you know, stop Scizor from really pulling off any sweeps. In my old team, Scizor, you know, was better off not even bothering, because, you know, I had Sableye, Milotic, Toxapex. You know, there is no way you can break through that. because, you know, Will-O-Wisp, Scald Burns, and yeah, there's just nothing he could do. So Toxapex though is a very reliable check to Sizer, in case any of you guys did not know. Sizers may sometimes run coverage like knockoff Super Power, but you know, most cases they aren't enough to really get past Toxapex. So I go for the Haze to shut down any of his stat boosts, and you know, of course I can afford to switch out if I need to. And then I go for the Scald, fishing for the burn, because if I get the burn off on the Scissor, that's GG for his Scissor. He won't be able to really use it much anymore in the battle. And you know, he goes into Glasscore. I get paralyzed, which is still fine, because Scald probably still wouldn't have not done much damage to his Glasscore anyways. And now I really have to figure out what I want to do here, because eventually at some point he's gonna really start catching on to me using Tangrowth as my main check to his Glasscore. And he probably would also start to notice eventually that I'm not running Hidden Power Ice on it. But you know, at this point I haven't really revealed that. I've just been mixing up a bit, making it look like I might still have that type of, you know, coverage option. So anyways, I go into Togekiss hoping he would go for Earthquake, but instead he goes for the Sword Stance, which is not great. So now I figured, you know, it's time to get Tangrowth in, because the more he sets up, the more problematic it is actually switching in on, you know, the Glasscore. So anyways, I decide I have to start attacking now, because this Glasscore has become scary enough with these boosts. And then I realize the unfortunate reality that this this Glasscore has insane special bulk. My Giga Drain did absolutely 0 damage. Like, bro, this thing completely eats up the Giga Drain. And then of course it has Roost. So at this point, you know, it's not good. Now, the good thing though with Roost is that he loses his flying typing, and if I go with a Giga Drain on the prediction, I can get crazy HP back in addition to crazy damage on the Glasscore. So anyways, you know, he starts attacking, then he gets a flinch and a critical hit, which is absolutely terrible, because now I'm completely forced to switch, and I decide to sack the Sizer. You know, of course he's gonna predict this and go for the Earthquake. There goes Sizer, but there's nothing that I really wanted to, you know, switch in on, you know, this Glasscore, especially because it has all those boosts. And you know, then it become a 50-50 between predicting his Rock Slide and Earthquake if I go into Togekiss or Toxapex. And you really have to base your moves based on what your opponent has. So my Sizer in this battle really would have not done anything, because even though he has Togekiss, I can still shut that down with Toxapex, and it can't do anything back to his Mega Sizer, and it can't do anything to his Glasscore. So I figured, you know, it's best to just get that out of the game, since it really can't make too many contributions. So you know, that's that. I sack it, and you know, I get Tangrowth back in decently good HP, but you know, he's still pretty low, and now it's about the time where I want to make a switch. But the thing is, I have to make a good switch. If I make the wrong move, then you know it's gonna cost me, because once again it's a 50-50. Rock Slide will take out the Togekiss, Earthquake will take out the Toxapex, or I could even stay in and take the risk. And you know, of course, Chandelure is not an option here, because it's at very low HP. It does not resist any of his attacks. In fact, it takes super effective damage. And you know, I still want to keep that in when I can, because even though it can't really do anything to Glasscore, it can still outspeed Togekiss and, you know, do good damage, and it can also outspeed Sizer, resist its Bullet Punch, and, you know, of course, one-shot it. So, you know, that's that. So anyways, I go into Toxapex, making the right read, expecting his Rock Slide, and, you know, that was that. And, you know, at this point in the battle, I was thinking about forfeiting, because it looked like I had no way out against this Glasscore, but I decided to persevere through and keep going. And I decided it's time for some mind games here, because, you know, I realized his Earthquake and his Rock Slide only have so much PP, and you know, I'm able to tank the hits relatively well. Like I could probably take 2 hits on Tangrowth per switch in. So you know, that's that. So now I really decided that the only way I could win this is by beating him mentally, by making the right reads, making the right moves, and I'm able to, you know, switch in every time he goes for a resisted attack. And here I go into Togekiss, and I expect him to dual Earthquake again, and that was an excellent move. So then, you know, of course I got the immunity off. And Toxapex, Tangrowth, and Togekiss are just such a good pairing here against Glasscore, because they can all you know, switch in accordingly on the right reads. Although at the same time, none of them can really do anything back to Glasscore, so this is the only thing I can really do. And once again, I'm also running dual regenerator setup with Tangrowth and Toxapex, where every time I switch them in and out, they get HP, then I can just, you know, get them back in good condition. So really, I can afford to really waste his PP every turn, and he has to be decisive with how he attacks, because if he makes the wrong read, then, you know, I can makes more of his PP. So I go into Tangrowth now, and he goes into Rock Slide, which was another good read. Although it still does very, very big damage to my Tangrowth, almost bring it into KO range, even or a critical hit from his Earthquake or Rock Slide. So now I have to figure out what I have to do here. It's either Togekiss or Toxapex. That would be a good move. But I decided to stay in anyway, predicting me switching out, and I get a Giga Drain off. But once again, does very little damage, and now I'm back to around 40 HP. So now I probably want to switch out because I don't want to be playing around at this much of a low level HP, especially when I have Regenerator, and especially when Tangrowth is one of my best Pokemon against his Glasscore. So anyways, he switches into Sizer, which was amazing because I went into Toxapex here, and the good thing about the switch in was now he lost all his Swords Dance boosts. So I could actually get a breeder here, and maybe start to rerun this. I could start figuring this out, like how I wanted to execute this. But anyways, I go for the Scald on his Sizer, and then the best thing happens, and that is a burn, which means that his Sizer is completely immobilized now, cannot do any damage, and that basically means it's out of the game as long as I keep Toxapex at good HP. And even then, I could also just use Chandelure to finish it off. So anyways, here I had to figure out what I wanted to do next, because eventually he'd probably also want to switch out, probably put some use to his Togekiss here and there. Also, he could also get another sweep, start off with his Glasscore, because he still has PP remaining, although low at that. So anyways, I go into Tangrowth because I wanted to play around and see if he had U-turn, because, or even any Bug Stab, and even if he did, he was burned and didn't have any Swords Dance boost at the time. So I'm pretty sure that even Tangrowth would still be able to take one of those hits pretty well. So he goes into Glasscore, and I go into Toxapex here just as an experiment to see what kind of coverage he had. But he goes into Glasscore anyway, so that was pointless. But that was also fine because I also partly did that so I could get the Regenerator healing. That was that. And anyways, with Toxapex, it's so bulky that I can actually afford to take 2 Earthquakes without any Swords Dance boost from Glasscore. So in case he decides to go for Swords Dance, predicting me to switch out, I can get the free Haze off on that, and of course shut down his Glasscore even more. But anyways, I figured now is the time to switch out, because you probably wanted to go for another Earthquake, since it looked like I would want to stay in. But I decided to switch out because I get all the HP back with Regenerator, and I could go and bring Tangrowth in and start doing scary things. So anyways, he goes into Togekiss on what I think was my last Giga Drain, which is unfortunate. And now I have to figure out how I want to handle this, because this Pokemon has got very minimal game time this whole time, and it could, I don't know what kind of moveset it's running, so it could start really doing crazy stuff. So anyways, I get Toxapex in, and the good thing is I already have status, so he can't status me further, and that's what makes me question his yawn. I don't know why he did it, but that's that. And anyways, I'm actually lucky here. I'm able to get off a Toxic. So I was kind of scared that the paralysis would stop that, and that even if I didn't get paralyzed, he could also have that Air Slash flinch. And even if he didn't get the Air Slash flinch, then the Toxic could still miss. So I was still pretty happy that the Togekiss was poisoned. Everything went well there in that regard, because now the Togekiss is on a timer, so it has to really be decisive at how it attacks, because of course its HP is going to be running down every single turn, and unless he wants to switch out, there's nothing he can really do with this. So anyways, I go into Togekiss, and I have to think here, because although I have a good matchup, I don't want to get status on the Togekiss if I can avoid it. So I decided to switch out, which was not an amazing move, but it was fine because it still doesn't really do that much damage to Toxapex. And then I get the Recover off, which means that he's really not taking big damage from the Toxic. And the only thing that stopped me from really just using Toxapex the whole time was the reality that paralysis could kick in at the wrong moment, and if that happened, it could be the end of the game. So I'd rather use other Pokemon that I didn't need as much to slow down the Togekiss, because Toxapex and Tangrowth are basically essentials to winning this game, whereas Togekiss is also still pretty key against the Glasscore. So anyways, I go into Togekiss here, then he goes in for a Yawn, which is it's alright. It's not, you know, the greatest thing ever, but you know, it's also not so bad because I can still switch out, although I don't want to stay in either because I don't want to lose Togekiss to sleep, because you know, sleep can completely destroy a Pokemon, so you never want that to happen. So anyways, I go into Toxapex as my switch in here, and then I go back into Togekiss, predicting the Air Slash, which was great because I was able to eat that up pretty well. And now he has one last turn left with his HP, so I go for the Air Slash. I probably could have been better off if I went for Roost there, but you know, that's fine, because like even if he went for a Roost in that situation, he would probably still have died to the Toxic. So he goes into Gliscor here, and now you know, this is the final scene of this battle, and that's because he doesn't have much HP on his Gliscor. Now the only two Pokemon he has left is his Gliscor and his Scizor. Now Scizor really, honestly, now it probably still could wreak havoc because Tangrowth can't do anything back to it, where it still does pretty decent damage to Tangrowth, especially if it gets +6 even with the burn. So you know, I don't wanna lose Toxapex because Toxapex completely shuts it down, but at the same time I really need Tangrowth to shut down the Gliscor, whereas Toxapex is good, although it's not incredibly useful because it still takes massive damage from the Earthquake. So anyways, I noticed here that, you know, I think eventually he started to realize that he, you know, is really burning through all his PP, so he has to, you know, start using other attacks as substitution, and that was fine for me because, you know, I had all these attacks just waiting to be used on this Gliscor, so I could afford to, you know, stay in. Although the only problem is with the Rocky Helmets that I was running, I'm not getting any passive damage on this Gliscor because, you know, none of his attacks are actually contact moves. Although physical, they're ranged. So if I had like leftovers instead, or really anything else, it probably would have benefited me more because then I could, you know, be taking his hits better. Where right now, you know, I'm not getting any recovery. It's really just, it's not helping at all. So anyways, now I just, you know, keep going for attacks, and you know, his Gliscor keeps healing all of the damage off, of course. But you know, it's fine because he's really running out of PP, and once he loses PP on his offensive attacks, then you know, his Gliscor is basically done for the game, because most of my Pokemon have crazy good amounts of PP, including Toxapex with just Haze alone, which is probably enough to cover his Earthquake and his Rock Slide. So you know, I could afford to, you know, stay in on this this type of business. So anyways, you know, now I start asking him in chat what the situation is with his PP. The issue is Roblox chat filter is incredibly dumb, so it doesn't come true. But in most situations, you really don't want to do that type of communication, honestly, because if the opponent answers, either they have to tell the truth and reveal that to you, or else you know, then they could also lie and, you know, launch trickery, which you don't want in the battle. And the only thing I don't really enjoy about Brick Bronze PvP is the fact that it doesn't already tell you this type of information. Whereas like on Pokemon Showdown, it would show you the amounts of moves you have left, so that way it's a lot more convenient, so you don't actually have to be keeping track of everything. And I couldn't keep track because, you know, I didn't want to have to end the recording and then go back and, you know, review all the footage, especially with a clock running down there. I didn't want to have to, you know, waste too much time for this guy. So anyways, I go into Toxapex here on his Scizor because, you know, Toxapex is the definitive answer to Scizor. He can't do anything to Toxapex. And I think it was at this point in the game where he actually ran out of PP on his Gliscor. That's probably the only reason he decided to switch out. There's not much he could do back to what I had to offer. So you know, at this point I was thinking I need to get in Chandelure somehow, and I figured the best way to get it in would be on a Roost, but it'd also be fine if I get it in on a Bullet Punch, although I don't want it switching in on a Feint, because, you know, or even a Swords Dance, honestly, because, you know, then it'd be taking more damage, whereas with Bullet Punch or Roost, it's really going to be fine. So I was waiting for the opportunity, and I figured it'd be about now where I decided, you know, it's time for Chandelure to get in, because, you know, he's not really doing much here, and it's going to be unlikely for him to go for a Feint. And, you know, it doesn't really do much damage to Chandelure. In fact, we almost, you know, regenerate as much damage as he did with leftovers. So I can go for the Flamethrower and dispatch the Scizor. He doesn't want to switch into Gliscor here either, because, you know, it's not going to be taking good damage from that. So he goes into Gliscor, and, you know, I figure it's best to stay in because he's going to outspeed me and KO me anyways, but then he forfeits, and that marks GG.